last, I don't know about that, but he was meant to put pressure on me, and then there was this thing about inspiration, so I don't know what that means. Inspiring to do what? Maybe go on a recruitment revolution, maybe, or but let's see. I am going to be talking about people as a competitive advantage, effectively, which is what LinkedIn is, which is what the main theme of this story. And in today's world, in the knowledge economy, or in any business for that matter, it's the people that give you the competitive advantage. Buying assets, building buildings, buying computers, buying cars, anybody can do really. There is nothing genius about it. So when companies come out and show you buildings, don't be impressed. They need to show you their people and what they do with their people, because that's the ultimate competitive advantage of any organization. And so I'll share part of my experience with you. So I am, this is my 32nd year being associated with Aramex. So I'll share some Aramex stories. I'll toot our horn a little bit, if you will allow me. Just a bit. 32 years allows me to do that. I don't normally do that, but I am also an angel investor, and I have invested over the past 10 or 15 years in over 80 companies. So I know a little bit about people, I know a little bit about startups, I know a little bit about building organizations that have gone global, and I can tell you that it is always about people, really. When the person is the right person in the right place with the right organization, then you're going to have superior results day in and day out. Since 1997, again, that's tooting a little bit the Aramex horn. Since 1997, when we took the company public on NASDAQ, there hasn't been a year that we have not improved our profitability over the previous year. And that's a direct result of our people, including the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009. We continue to improve our profitability over the previous year. So, what did we do? What is my experience? I want to share a couple of issues that I think matter to you. One is how do companies attract talent? And talent is what makes the difference, by the way. With all due respect to all the lines of people that work in organizations, it is those talented people that think of themselves as talented people and are retained in the organization as talented people, which means they are the leaders of that organization, that drive the organization to go into different places and carry it. They carry every single other person inside the organization. So what do companies do to attract those talent? Because talent has a lot of choice nowadays. I mean, you know, it's you. You have choice because you're mobile, because talent is in the brain. And that's the asset of a talent. So which means you can pack your bags at any moment in time, fly and work anywhere in the world, because talent is also being sought after globally. It is not the neighbor that is looking for you. It is not the company next door. It is a company anywhere that attracts your talent. And you better be very careful. And you are a very lucky person if you are a talented person and think you are talented and act as you are talented and you're sought after as a talented individual, because you will be sought after globally, and your value in totality as holistically will increase. Number two, what do talented people have to do to get attracted to good companies? So I'll try to give you answers to these two questions. Bearing in mind, again, talking a little bit about Aramex, the average person in my organization, I no longer am CEO, I sit on the board only, I have retired about a year and a half ago. The average retention of our senior managers, the people that run the organization, is 17 years. The average managers, the second line, we're mostly a flat organization, so when I say second line, I mean it's like the cliff after that. 13 years. So these are people that have stayed over a decade with us. And there's a reason for them to have done that. We went out and we wanted to challenge ourselves because we're always feeling good about ourselves. We have an organization that continuously celebrates internally, and we say we're a great organization, but we needed to verify that from outsiders, and we brought in the Hay Group, quite a professional organization. And we wanted them to actually survey the biggest amount of people inside the organization. That was about 3 years ago. So they surveyed anonymously about 5,500 people of our organization across the board in every single country that we operate in. And we found, and then I'll explain to you why. We found that the average satisfaction of our people inside the organization was about 80%. Meaning, we are enjoying ourselves. This is a company we want to be in. This is a good company. It gives us a good name. We're happy here. We want to stay here, mostly. And on average, and then they compared us to other studies that they have done and what their global averages are. On average, in the Middle East, it's 65%. Globally, among the highest of the multinational organizations that I'm not going to name, is 69%. We were surprised, and the Hay Group thought we had rigged and we had bribed our employees to answer the way they answered. But we were surprised that it got confirmed the way it did, even better than we expected. But we were also not totally surprised, because we knew what we were doing, and the results by the retention of the people and the talented people inside the organization told us that. So they tell you, if you ask a manager or a leader, what is it that keeps you up at night? Most of them will tell you, attracting talent. Well, I'll tell you, we, again, a bit of arrogance here, we slept well at night. We slept well at night, and allow me that. Why? Why did we sleep well at night? Because very early on, as we were building the organization, when we were really small, we embarked on a very serious internal discussion in defining who we want to be. Internal discussion, not only by me as a CEO saying, here's I'm the old wisdom and I'm going to throw wisdom at you. I don't have that wisdom. The wisdom in Aramex is a collective wisdom. So we said, what does it take to create an organization that is going to retain us inside the organization? And number two, attract people to come and work for us as we are growing. What is it that is going to attract people when we are competing with multinational, global, multi-billion-dollar organizations when we were barely a $50, $60 million organization? I'm talking back in 1992 and 1993. We embarked on that discussion, and I think we came up with the formula that effectively 10 years later, it takes 10 years to create a culture in an organization, at least half a generation of people living it day in and day out, so that it can show that what you said and what you agreed upon and the business contract, I don't want to call it the social contract, because in countries there are social contracts between the rule and the rulers. In companies there is a contract between the people that work and the founders and the owners of the organization. What is it that contract that created that cementing power in the organization? And ultimately it is a corporate culture. It's a corporate culture. A corporate culture is something that an organization decides how it wants to act, and its values, and how it wants to project these values, and what sort of people do we want to have in the organization. So let me give you 10 things that I think an organization needs to do, and we've done over the years. Not perfectly, and allow me, as much as I could, we did a lot of mistakes along the way. Massive amounts of mistakes, but that's part and parcel of the entrepreneurial culture that we created. The allowing of mistakes and the allowing of trial and error. So let me give you 10 things very quickly that I think matter. One, obviously, is the culture of empowerment. People that are inside the organization need to feel that they are empowered to come into that organization and make a difference. They want to feel their individual difference. Number two, trust to innovate. Trust to innovate. You want people to come in, and these people want to innovate. Otherwise, talented people will go. And talented people don't want to just do a job. talented people, they want to come and actually exercise their skills and their capabilities and see the results through an innovation, an internal process of innovation. And number 3, it is the entrepreneurial spirit inside the organization. What do I mean by entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial? Intrapreneurial means you are going to train your people so that they become problem solvers, they become initiative takers, and they think solutions, not menus, not rule books. They think solutions. If it's not in the rule book, solve it. Otherwise, you're not going to grow in the organization. Otherwise, the organization is not going to retain you. Otherwise, you're going to sit behind your desk forever and not expect to get, because that's a meritocracy process of initiative and solutions. Number 4, the pride in the brand. It is so essential, as you know, that you are going to say, I work in this organization with a big smile, and people will envy you. And you will go out and recommend your company to your friends and your family. That's the ultimate recommendation. When you say, I work for this company, and I'm going to recommend you, it means that this is the ultimate seal of trust. So that brand power for the individual, because that's projected outside. Word of mouth is extremely powerful. You can do all the advertising you want, but it's the word of mouth of your people that attracts people to come and work for you. And embracing diversity, number 5. Embracing diversity. This is the ultimate diverse city on earth. And if you don't embrace diversity, you are not going to be able to attract talent, and you are not going to be able to compete. Your competitive advantage will go away. Embracing diversity, by definition, meaning accepting other cultures, accepting everyone, and accepting a sense of democracy inside the organization. You need to think at length of that. What does accepting democracy inside the organization mean? Diversity in opinion, diversity in cultures. We don't want herd mentalities. We don't want the boss to say, here's where we're going, and everybody runs in the same direction. Asking why is critical. Asking why not is also critical. And saying, how do you suggest that we do it, is also critical. And that's a democratic process. That's a democratic process not to create chaos, but to create a sense of validation and a sense of ownership. Because when you don't ask why, then you will not be able to participate wholeheartedly in the process of what you are building in your organization. Because if you feel you are led and not part of the decision-making process, then you are not going to feel that passion about the organization or the job or the thing that you are doing. It's critical that there is that and leadership in the organization, and this is built. This is part of a culture. This is not about individuals. I don't want one leader to be enlightened and say, I'm enlightened, I want everybody's opinion. You need a mass. Not everyone is going to be that, by the way. But you need the biggest number of your leaders inside the organization to say, if you're not asking me questions, there's something wrong here. And a leader is a leader that creates controversy and creates a sense of urgency all the times. And the sense of urgency means questioning, so that everybody participates in the process and moves the company in the direction that it wants to move. Specifically in times of crisis, and that's when leadership is being tested all the time. It is you, how you react in times of crisis, how you address your issues in times of crisis, as a leader and as an organization, is when you matter. When Aramex in 2008 decided that it is, during the financial crisis, it is not going to fire a single individual, that gave us extreme power with our people. That basically cemented that we walk the talk. We could have easily done it, because many people have done it, because we had the excuse. It's very simple. You're reorganizing. The world is collapsing. And we basically came out very clearly. If you look at our record, you can Google it. In my talks, in everything that we did, we kept reassuring our people, you are not going to go away. And you know the amount of loyalty that you get back and the amount of work that you get back from your people when you tell them, I am as loyal to you as you are loyal to me, it's quite powerful. And that's when you show leadership, and that's when the individuals inside the organization are in the business of communicating to the rest of the organization and get them to buy that story through action, not through words. And number 7, shared values. Talented people like you do not go to organizations that they do not share the organization's value. How do I position myself vis-a-vis the environment? What is my sustainability structure? What do I do to my neighborhood and my community? How do I act internally? How do I treat my people internally? If you don't feel comfortable with that organization in the way that reflecting your values inside, you're not going to work in that organization, no matter how good, how profitable. And there are many companies that are in the graveyard of companies today who were great one day and lost the way they were viewing things because they could not retain people based on a story that there was a shared value and suddenly it did not exist. We will not issue at Aramex any financial statement independent of our sustainability report. We're the first company in this region to have issued a combined sustainability and financial report. They go together. And this sustainability report has benchmarks, and we publicly get outside auditors to say, here's what we promised, here's where we fell short, and here's where we need to do more, and here's what we're doing next year through an independent auditor, and we combine the reports together. What are we saying when we say it is not about financials alone? We're saying we're an organization for stakeholders. Because the employees or our people are as important as our shareholders. And we are not a shareholder-driven organization. And we are not going to be a shareholder-driven organization. And our community, and our internal community, and our larger community is a must. And that's what organizations need to do. Number 8, you need to recognize, obviously. If you don't recognize people for the great work that they do, you need to recognize, tapping on the back, saying thank you, celebrating successes, not killing people for failure, not cutting heads for failure, tolerating that process through, because when you have a culture that says, I want you to take risks, I want you to be entrepreneurial, and I want you to try, I want you to solve problems, they're going to make mistakes. Because if you don't tell them that, they'll sit behind their desks and say, the manager is going to decide on this because I can't decide. It's the manager. Because if I decide you're going to kill me, you're going to cut my salary, you're going to fire me, you're going to do this and that. If they don't have that, if you don't recognize them in good and in bad, they are not going to be... Suddenly my voice went up, right? And then there has to be a sense of ownership. I mean, not all companies do that, and our laws, unfortunately, in the region, and I need to say that loudly, our laws in the region do not allow for stock options. It is so essential that there is that sense of owning in the company, owning the decision-making process with the leadership and owning shares. When we went public on NASDAQ, we were, I don't know, maybe 2,500 people, at least 500 of our people had stock options. We were probably the first company, or one of the first companies, I don't want to claim the first companies, that have actually distributed for as many people as possible. Even the smallest amount to the couriers that deliver packages. They had a sense that they owned. That was their company. They owned it. They had, when we distributed dividends, they got part of the dividends. When we bought the company back, they made a lot of money on their stock. That sense of ownership is powerful. Think about that. Not all companies can do that. Not all companies are going to do that. Family companies struggle with that. That needs a lot of thought because there is an incentive to the sense of ownership. This is not about bonuses because everybody gets a bonus. This is about the sense of ownership inside the organization that says I can vote and this is for me. And then finally it's pay and rewards. And I put it last because it is not as important. Paying high salaries is important, but talent is not about only payment, because they can get money anywhere they want. Anywhere they want. They can practically decide what salary they want, effectively. If you're talented and you're in demand, you're king or queen. And yeah, and so these are the 10 things that I think matter in an organization. This is what shapes an organization and makes it a great organization in my view. Now, what do we have to do as individuals to get recruited by companies that say they're good, or we think they're good, or that brand attraction that says, I want to go and work for that company? And I think you need to replicate what I said before, but from your personal, as an individual. And Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, and a friend of mine, I have the honor of saying that, along with Muhammad Yunus, who's also a fantastic Muslim entrepreneur and a Nobel laureate, also a friend of mine, have 2 quotes that tell us the story of what we need to do. And Reid has wrote a fantastic book about the startup of you. If you read that book, and then you should tell Reid that I'm selling this book here, that maybe you'll get a better chance of getting employed or getting the job in the right company. So Reid says in one of his quotes, he says, ironically, in a changing world, and I don't need to tell you when you live in the Middle East that we're in a changing world. Ironically, in a changing world, playing it safe is one of the riskiest things you can do. I mean, it's a paradox. So you want to play it safe by nature, because human beings want to play it safe. But if you play it safe, you're actually not playing it safe. You're actually risking yourselves to not going places. And then Muhammad Yunus tells us, all human beings are entrepreneurs. When we were in caves, we were all self-employed. And then he explains what that means. And then as civilization came, we suppressed it and became labor, quote unquote, because they stamped us as you are labor. So we forgot we are entrepreneurs. What does that mean? What does that mean? An entrepreneur, effectively, and what Reid says in his book, is not necessarily that you're going to go out and create a company. That's not the idea. You can, but you need to have that entrepreneurial mind, in my view, so that you can get attracted to the good companies. What does an entrepreneurial mind mean? And all sorts of studies, by the way, have come out recently about what is that employers look for in people. You will find many books, and I'm happy to share with you later. And then there were 2 articles recently by Tom Friedman and you should read them. And it's okay to mention Google here, is it not? So he basically says, how does Google employ? I mean, how does Google recruit people? I think these are 2 articles. He wrote one a month ago and one just 2 days ago. It's important that you read that, because he's interviewed the human talent guy at Google, and he tells him what to talk. But so let me tell you from my experience also, so not that I want to compare myself to the brilliant Google, but curiosity. You need to be curious, guys, because if you're asked to be a solution provider, you need to be curious. You need to ask questions, and you need to be curious, and you need to be an analytical thinker. You need to understand, and in today's world, and again, LinkedIn, with big data, with all sorts of information being thrown at you every day, you need to be able to understand it, and analyze it, and report it, and take decisions based on it. That's a difficult process. That's a skill that is learnable. That's learnable. There's nothing that I'm telling you here that's not learnable. Everything is learnable. God created us all equal. All. And He meant it. Or she. We need to solve problems. We need to be able to be problem solvers. There is job descriptions, again, this is an old story, job descriptions is a joke. If any of you go and say, if anybody comes to me and says, what's the job? You're gone. The interview has ended. Tell me what my responsibilities are. The interview has ended. There are general responsibilities, and there are maybe some specific responsibilities, and then, come and work, okay?
So you need to be a problem solver because you are living in a world that has a lot of problems. Organizations face, like mine, we have hundreds of thousands of clients and they complain all the time. And I need people that go out of their way to solve those problems because it is, sometimes if you don't address the issue with an initiative, you're going to say, you know, it's delayed, our driver in London was, I don't know, went to sleep and we lost the address. I know you complain sometimes about me also, so I get that. Life revolves around solving problems and that's what I do for a living. If you follow my Twitter account, you will find people complaining to me every single morning, Fadi, where is my package? Thank you. Does that mean you are one of them? Is that why you're clapping? So I actually go out and respond. I actually respond. If you follow, why do I respond? Because that is a message I send to the organization, not to you as a client, a little bit to you, because it tells you that me, the retired CEO, which should not be caring about your package and what happens to it, actually will care even after I retire because I carry that brand and I will tell my organization, this guy needs to get his problem solved. That sends a message across the organization that this guy at the top, who thinks he's all wisdom, actually cares about what's in that one single package. That's a powerful message. I mean, people watch leaders. People will watch you all the time. Every single detail that you do. And they will remind you. When you say something and don't do it, they will remind you. Nobody is afraid anymore. Facebook is out there. Again, can I say Facebook? Or Twitter, or whatever. Or LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn and complain. I'll go quickly now so that I don't bore you too much. So problem solving. You need to love learning. This is most of this stuff that you actually read about, but it's reality. You need to be in the business of loving to learn because the world is changing all the time. There is nothing that we did last year that we can repeat today and still do it well. So loving to learn, that curiosity process and learning. Number 4, again, said taking risks and taking decisions. If you take a decision, you need to take risks, by definition. So if you're afraid to take decisions, if you're not trained enough to take decisions, if you're not empowered enough to take decisions, you're not going to rise in the organization. It's not going to happen. So that takes risks, and you need to be able to accept risk. Trial and error is part of decision-making process, and that creates risks, and that creates failures, and the organization needs to tolerate it, and you need to embrace it. Flexibility and adaptability, again, very simple process. The world changes. You need to be flexible and adaptable and not get stuck. I see so many people that get stuck. You know, when you play pinball and you keep pushing the machine and it gets stuck. In Arabic, we say بتتلت. You know, it doesn't move anymore. The ball dies on you. This is what happens with some people because it's not part and parcel of what they have seen or learned before. So there's no flexibility. The mind gets stuck, and you are frozen like a screen. Facebook sometimes does that. Or Microsoft, I should say. You need to lead and let others lead. So when you want to step back, sometimes you need to step back and you need to let others in your team step back, step forward. You need to allow them that sense of they can step forward, and actually this is a process of exchanging leadership, that there is more than one guy leading, that there is somebody that knows a little bit better or capable a little bit better that can step forward and say, leave this to me, I'll be able to address it. Which leads me to the process of the ability to work within teams. Collaborative work is so essential in today's world. Collaborative work and sharing knowledge and information is so essential. Again, holding information and saying, you know, I don't want to share because I'm afraid for my job, because if I share knowledge, somebody else will grab it and run with it. You're already gone if you do that. You've lost out already, even if you have a shred of that mentality. And number 7, you need to share and the ability to communicate with your people transparently about everything that it goes in the organization. Everything. Even when we were a private company, we kept issuing because we bought the company off of NASDAQ for after 5 years on NASDAQ, and then it stayed private for 4 years. We kept issuing our financial reports, one, to the public market, even though we were a private company. And number two, more importantly, to our own organization internally. We told them everything that was happening in the organization. Every office of an Aramex across the world knew exactly what their performance was in that country. In terms of financials, in terms of training, in terms, there are multiple KPIs that we look at, and not only financials, what we do with the community, etc., etc. You need to be able to communicate, you need to be able to talk, and you need to practice that. That is so essential, because your people want to hear you, want to engage you, want to know what's happening. And then you need to be a mentor. Leaders are mentors. It's not only sharing information, it's sharing everything that you have and helping your people grow. Because you will remember a mentor. A mentor is a guy that basically says, I'm your friend, you can call me anytime about any issue that you want, and I'm going to help you grow, and I'm going to help you resolve, I'm going to celebrate with you. It's essential, that sense of, I had a mentor in the organization. A leader, by definition, is a mentor and has an open door. Doors cannot be closed. Companies cannot be hierarchical. In today's world, the hierarchy cannot be more than 2 or 3 layers max, and doors have to be open across the organization, and everybody should be talking to everybody, and mentors are at the height of opening their doors and making sure that there are solutions across the board. And last but not least, I didn't talk about college degrees. They're important, but they're just, important. You go to Harvard, fantastic, good for you, but you're not going to get a job unless you do the other things that I mentioned. That's it. Thank you very much.